Jurassic Minutes listeners, Brad here. Do you like the Jurassic franchise? Of course you do. You're listening to this podcast and most likely the other Jurassic themed podcasts out there. If you're not, go and do it right now. But do you also like mysteries and mysteries pertaining to the Jurassic franchise? Well, David and I have teamed up to produce a special Patreon-only show deep into some of those mysteries. What did kill the men on the parasailing boat in Jurassic Park 3? What is the real story behind the 5 deaths? And did a hurricane really hit Isla Nublar back in 1993 during the Jurassic Park incident? All these mysteries and more we tackle twice a month for your listening pleasure for as low as $1 over at our Patreon page, Jurassic Minutes. Head over, check out the podcasts, and let's go on the journey to solve some mysteries together. Welcome to the Jurassic Park 3 Minutes, where we'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad, and today we're back to discuss minute 7 of Jurassic Park 3. But before we do that, David, I don't even know how I found this. It might have been a YouTube video, but there's a blogger and a fellow Lost World fan out there named Lofty Splines. I think his real name's on his blog. I'm not going to bring that up, but you can. We're going to post a link up, and I think I already did on the Facebook page with a progress video. He started trying to do the worker village and then mainly the operations building in the trespasser engine to pretty much just make a walkthrough of the area. Also, unfortunately, the sort of trespasser being as buggy as it is, he had to abandon that and went to a different game engine to build the operations building, and he start of first week in October he posted up a progress video which blew me away. A fantastic looking operations building for the most part, still just a work in progress, but you can walk into, or he shows you walk into it, flip the power switch in the communications room, and all the computers and lights and everything light up, and I think it's going to be really nice when he's finished it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I wish that we got to see more of the village itself. He doesn't really show it off a lot, unfortunately, and he spends most of the video kind of comparing what he's done with the images from the movie. I really would have preferred to have just seen like a walkthrough of the village itself and be able to see what he's actually been doing with it.
Yeah, it's sort of one thing I noticed here, and even having a bit of a search through DeviantArt last night, there seems to be a lot of people that are taking your map and sort of your interior of the operations building and using that in creating these works, which is great to see. And we sort of discussed when we were at that scene, or in these minutes in the Lost World, of whether or not it's offices or the lab on that unseen area of the operations building, what exactly is in there. But
well, my map was with that open area, or not open area, the map I did with the kind of the cut through of the interiors, that was actually done as a response to a text-based roleplay that we used to have on Jurassic Park Legacy called Live the Legend, and I did it to kind of standardize the descriptions because everybody gave their own descriptions of the worker village. So I thought, why don't I take what we do know of the village, map out those interiors, and be able to just use that to kind of standardize so everybody's on the same page with it. It was never meant to actually be official. We don't actually know what those things are, or what that space is on the other side of the lobby opposite the radio room, but we don't know what the interior of the boarding house looks like. In fact, I specifically never made a cut through of it because of that reason.
Hmm. Yeah, and if we go back to the slides episode, well, it's completely hollow.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, I was just about to say. It's in fact they didn't even finish it. It's a two-story hollow structure, and so I only mapped out what we knew. Since it was a text-based role play, I did allow a lot of room for the imagination to roam. So I kind of left it bare. It's bare minimum interior. It's definitely not official. It's nothing that I know of. There's nothing that I ever intended to be used as a reference. But as I have noticed, that my maps do actually seem to get around. I actually noticed I forget what his name is, Jesus Kavazek. Jesus C. But he did this kind of field guide that used my worker village map. And it is on the official, not the official. It's on the it is on the Wikia page for the worker village. So that map is out there. It's, I'm sure, seen by a lot. I will admit, is probably the most accurate map ever made of that village.
Yeah.
But the interior version of it was an alternate version that I made that was never intended to be used to reference anything. The main version of the map that's on the Wikia, on Jurassicpedia, and everywhere else, yes, that is my. I did intend to make that as accurate as possible, so people did know what it looked like, based on set photos, video, just examining the film itself, and excuse me.
I gave me tickle to you.
You did. And just mapping the village out as accurately as possible, you know?
Yeah, it also sort of gives more hints too, as that day when Spielberg rang production and said, "What have you got done? Finish it. We're moving to San Diego." Just how far ahead the operations building must have been, and the gas station, just to have them complete. Even though they would have said, well, especially the kiln house or the kiln shed, we have a major set piece in this. It's got to be dressed inside. Where the boarding house must have been in or nearing completion. They didn't even say, no, we're not going in there, so we don't need to dress it inside.
Well, it looked like from the way that they were building the village that they were building from the operations center down. And everything. So they started with the operations center. All the videos show that's where. I mean, not videos. All the early pre-production images of that set. What shows that they dug out that pit. They installed a filtration system into it. They slammed the pylons into that pit. That was the first thing to go up. The operations center was the first thing to be built for that set.
Yeah, you can see there's a behind the scene. I was just going to say there's a behind the scene photo out there where you see from behind the set looking forward, and it's a clear open space all the way to the Psycho house, and that's one interesting thing. I know you've put down sort of a silhouette of where the village would have stood on that current backlot, and it would have consumed the Psycho house. So what would have happened there if they did go the full 13 building design for the worker village? It would have been interesting.
I think they probably would have CGI'd it out or dressed it in a way that with temporary set dressing so that it was hidden. Spielberg being the film fan that he is, I cannot see him destroying something like the Psycho house even for one of his own movies. Yeah,
no, I could see it as some sort of building that they'd dress the lower level and the camera just wouldn't. You'd see them come into the village and the camera wouldn't rise above sort of that first story, so they wouldn't have to touch the roof and anything.
Well, most of the images we get of the concept images that we get of the village from above is looking down the street to the operations center. I think there's only I can recall only maybe one or two possibly images that we have of looking down the street the opposite direction, and we would have seen cliffs, and we see cliffs there, and like it's bumped up actually against the cliff edge. It's not. I mean, it's in the movie. It's kind of away from the cliff edge. It's down in a valley, but in the concept art, it was bumped up against the edge of the cliffs. And I think they would have probably maybe CGI'd that or used a matte painting to create those cliffs to hide the Psycho house.
Yeah, and at night time it wouldn't have to be that textured or detailed. You just have sort of any light or glow sort of reflecting off the rocks.
Precisely. In fact, I mean, they probably could have reused a lot of set pieces from the other scenes, like for example the trailer hanging off the cliff where they had the where they dressed up the side of the parking garage.
Yep. So yeah, that's we've posted up the link to that blog. We got a little bit off topic there, but
I was gonna say it's cool. We love the Lost World.
Yeah. And we're gonna get back to that when we get to the lab here coming up in a few minutes' time. I suppose the one other thing I was wondering the other day is the helipad for that operations building being built out of steel and that because it needed to be an active helipad for the shoot.
Yeah, the helipad was built to code for that because they actually had to land a helicopter on it. It's interesting because that's like the only part of the structure still standing.
Yeah. Which is sort of interesting because a lot of the pre-San Diego script and even going into the script itself, there was never a helicopter pad there. The helicopter was going to hover over the operations building and rip or tear some of the roof above the communications room away, and go and put down either out in the street or out on another building's roof. Where that seems to be a very late addition. I'm just trying to think of those early photos if the helipad's there or not.
I think in the maquette it was there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Not in most of the concept art. Originally, the helicopter was supposed to land on top of the geothermal plant.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. All those miniatures they've used, even the one under the waterfall's got that little helipad off to the side. Yeah. All right. Let's get back on topic. David, ready to get into minute 7 of Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
As we ended on minute 6 of Jurassic Park 3, Alan was telling Ellie about the research he'd been doing into raptor communications. And then, as the minute ended, Ellie had realised that the raptors could talk to each other. As minute 7 opens, Alan tells Ellie that they could communicate to a degree they'd never imagined. Alan then leans over the table and smiles. Ellie, they're smart. They're smarter than whales or dolphins, smarter than primates. At the 12-second mark, we fade to outside Ellie's house, as Alan's starting the car and winding down his window. Ellie says if he ever needs any help with anything, just to ask, and he often forgets to do that. At the 30-second mark, Ellie tries to reassure Grant again, telling him that he's still the best. And Alan replies, "The last of my breed." And as the Jurassic Park tune slowly plays on a piano in the background, Alan slowly reverses out of Ellie's driveway, which he thinks is the last time you'll see her. At the 48-second mark, we cut from Alan's car driving out of the driveway to a table of fossils in a large auditorium. In the background, Alan can be heard talking more about velociraptor cranial cavities. And as the 7th minute ends, Alan's telling the group that the raptors were capable of sophisticated vocalizations.
After we end the last minute with Ellie realising the raptors could talk to each other, Grant now replies to her that they did with a degree we could never imagine. And Alan sort of leans over the table here and gets really serious and says, Ellie, they were smart. They were smarter than dolphins or whales. They were smarter than primates. And you sort of, again, get that really creepy Alan smile. And
Now, in defense of that line, there are some species of bird, including corvids, which are ravens and crows, that are very intelligent. They're like raptor level intelligent. I wouldn't say they're smarter than primates, but I've seen videos of crows where they've figured out displacement in order to get like the peanut out of a little flask. Mm-hmm. And they had to figure out how much weight would displace enough water to float the peanut to the top of the glass so they could get to it.
Yeah, I heard somewhere else that there was research done on in sort of Northern America and Canada where they sort of mirroring wolf packs and sort of following wolf packs around, knowing when they feed, and I'll have to see if I can find that to do it justice. But yeah, just the intelligence there. I think we're starting to move away from the fact that whales and dolphins are the other smart animals on the planet. Yes, they are smart, but I think there's a lot of evidence now just how intelligent pigs are, and again maybe more mammals and avian or birds, but there's definitely smart birds out there.
Well, continuing that, speaking of studies, they did a study on crows a few years back that discovered that crows actually recognize faces. If they can recognize, they'll recognize people who are mean to them and attack them and can differentiate those people that are mean to them from people that have been nice to them. So, I mean, these are birds that are differentiating between friend and foe based completely on visual cue.
And that's that, and they remember.
They do.
And it's even weapons. Like you've got to be very, very, very sneaky to be able to shoot a crow.
Oh, yeah. And they'll and if you miss, they'll remember that.
Yeah. It just makes me wonder that jump scare at the start of Jurassic World. That's a crow in the snow, isn't it?
Yeah.
In front of the little drone for the Indominus. So you've got dinner coming. But we sort of we fade out here and to outside of Ellie's scared face as we got Alan in the car, and Ellie says, "I just want to say if you ever need help, anything, sometimes you forget to ask, so you can call me anything anytime." And sort of Alan replies, "Sure," and starts his car. And there's a bit of an uneasy moment of silence, and Ellie tells Grant that he's still the best, and she means it. And then we get that line from Alan, which he's probably been holding on to from Jurassic Park, and when Ian's told him he's extinct, he's the last of his breed. And we get that slow piano Jurassic Park tune play as well, which is a nice little touch.
Well, I think this scene right here, and the scene it fades into, is interesting because it shows a glimpse of what paleontology has become in the age of Jurassic Park. It's absolutely, and in effect, it has become extinct. It's become an obsolete profession, and has in effect evolved. And then we see in Jurassic World that it in effect evolves into something new, like paleo veteran. Medicine,
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And Alan's going to counter next minute or next couple of minutes where he gets asked that exact same question. It's sort of, I wish it was flushed out a little bit more in the new movies, just what exactly has happened to paleontology. I'm guessing if Grant does have a cameo in the third film, then maybe we'll see more of that and find out what's been going on. But it's just good to see that there's sort of consequences for what happened at Jurassic Park, even though the world itself may know about